Hello class, I'm Nicholas Holmes, and today I'll be discussing using multiple backgrounds with CSS, why you might want to use multiple backgrounds, and how to use them on your own sites. What does multiple backgrounds mean? Well, simply put, it means you can apply more than one background to an HTML element. The backgrounds are layered, one atop of another. It layers them with the first background listed as the top layer and the last background listed as the bottom layer. If you want to use a color as one of the layers, it can only be used in the last layer, or the bottom. You can use any of the background properties when using multiple backgrounds. Each property is applied to the background that corresponds to its order. This means the first value listed applies to the foremost layer, and the last value listed applies to the bottom layer. One of the most common uses of multiple backgrounds is to layer one image on top of another, as seen in the screenshot. You can see these flowers are layered on top of this wrinkly paper, and this is an example off the W3 sites. So I'm going to take you there and show this to you. Here's that example. Now you can see that it has the background image, and then it's using them in order. So with the first one as the topmost layer and the last one as the bottommost layer. So here we have the image flower as the top, and then underneath that you have the paper. And now you can see this uses a couple of styles. It's using the position and repeat. So in the position, where it has bottom right, that means for the flower, because it's the topmost, to put it in the bottom right corner. And for the next one, the paper, to use started at the left top. And on repeat, we can see that for the flower, it's set to no repeat, but for the paper, it's set to repeat. Now to see what this looks like, if I take the flower and tell it to repeat, and run it, you can see the flower image is repeated over and over and over. Well, we don't want that. Well, let's see what happens if we tell the paper to not repeat. Well, you can see the actual size of that image, and it's set to repeat to fill up the entire screen. You can even use backgrounds not saved locally. Like in this screenshot, this URL, it's calling for this image located on w3.org. That's a vector file, looks like. And so I have that pulled up, and we can actually mess with that here. So we see here that it's using a background color and background image. In this example, you could manipulate this to be a different color. You could change the fill for the X's and O's to be different as well. It's hard to tell, but let's use a different one so it sticks out. There we go. Another example of multiple background images layering on top of each other is for this custom 404 page here. I found this example on creativeblock.com. I've got a link to that at the end of the presentation as well. But it has a great walkthrough on how to create a custom 404 page like this. So I'm going to pull that up here. Alright, so this has actually a lesson to go through and show you how to create this custom 404 page using multiple backgrounds. It layers them. This actually isn't all one background. This is one background, the clouds are another, the hills are one, the mountain peaks are another, as well as the hot air balloon and the message itself. So you can see how they laid it out. They go through, show how they're layering them, show what images you want layered on top of whatever. For example, you wanted the rolling hills layered on top of the mountain peaks, or the small clouds on top of the large one. And then at the end it shows how to pull it all together and give a little border around this. It's a great tutorial that I recommend. It really goes into a lot of depth for anyone that's interested. Another example is this right here. This is using CSS, and it has 4 different effective files that it's using for these corner decorations, one for each of the different angles. And it's layering these different images on top of this background image, which is color. Right here it's just yellow, or orange. You could just set that to white or what have you. That's another example of how you could use layered backgrounds. Another common use that I found while researching this is actually to increase perceived performance by using multiple backgrounds. It's similar to progressive imaging. Over half the website's data is from images. Use multiple backgrounds to progressively load different size versions of the same image to have a low quality image load quickly, so visitors don't see blank spaces while the higher quality image loads. It's helpful when you have lots of high quality image on your site, or when you have visitors with slow connections. And that's still a very real problem here in the United States. According to the FCC 2018 Broadband Deployment Report, which I have a little snippet of, there are still more than 24 million Americans that don't have broadband internet at their home. So last week, Alex Brush did a great presentation on progressive images. I recommend watching that if you haven't seen it. It has some fantastic information that will be helpful to anyone. But you may be able to achieve similar results using CSS multiple backgrounds, depending on your situation. So here I'm going to give an example. This screenshot is from this one I'm about to go through. It has the same image loaded one on top of the other, one above the other, of this rock formation. And the top image is just one large image, and it loads it line by line and takes a while. The bottom below that image actually has 3 different qualities. He put them one in black, one sepia, one in color, so you can see. And it will load one and then the other and then the highest quality. So that way when someone goes to the site, it will immediately load an image, but then it will load another image on top of that that's a higher quality. And this he did in different colors to help it stick out that they're actually different images. And I'll show you that here now. So here's that site with that image. I have set up my developer tools to be running at 512 kilobytes to help let this stick out a little more. I'll empty the cache and do a hard reload on the page. You can see that the bottom image loads relatively quickly compared to the top. It loaded black and white and then sepia, and now it's loading the color. And you can see, boom, both of the colors loaded at the same time at the end. But it had an image available the whole time while it was trying to load. This is from that site. This is a great site that goes through on using this feature, and it goes into a bit of depth. But if you look here at this image, Parker has on the site has 3 different images here, and he uses that same technique. Here I'm running a 1 megabyte simulated connection, or throttled connection, so if I empty and do a hard reload, you'll see a similar result. Here you have a black and white, lower quality images, and you could see them that they've loaded. And then you see here's a black and white, and then now you can see that it's working on loading the colored images down below. And you can see the color images are a bit bigger in size, 1.7 megabytes, 1.7 megabytes. The black and whites were, 40 kilobytes or so in size. So that way it gave an option of having the page actually load without having a blank space where that image or those images would be otherwise. So I've created a couple of demo examples that I'm going to show here as well. So this is a layered one that I created. It's actually calling, I have 3 different things going on here. My topmost layer is this BYU Idaho logo. Below that, I have these bubbles. And below that, I have a color fill gradient that goes from the BYU blue to a white. I'll show you the CSS that I'm using for that. Here I have the background image as the BYU logo. Then I'm pulling in the bubbles from a Mozilla site where I learned about this example. And then I have a gradient going from the BYU blue. And I have a couple options here where the background image, I have the 91% and 80%, and I use that to locate the BYU logo where I want it to be. If I were to manipulate that, you'd be able to see that I could change the location of that around to have that where I want it to be. If I go back, I have another example that I created. This is the image that we were given to use as a hero image. This is the original size that it's loading, and you can see I have it loading on a 2.5 meg throttled connection, and it's about 10 megs in size, and it's taken a while to load. On this example, what I've done is created a really low quality version of that image that's only 18 or so kilobytes in size, and then I have layered on top of it the high quality original that's 9.8 megs in size, and you can see that it's going down, so it loads that low quality and then it's going on top and loading the higher quality. So that way when someone goes, they're not having a blank space on that page waiting for that image to load line by line. They're getting an immediate image and then it's filled through with a better quality image. This concludes my presentation of using CSS Multiple Backgrounds and situations where you might use them. I'll include references on my post for anyone that's interested in learning more about this, to the different sites where I learned that has tutorials and other information, so you can better learn how to use them for yourself as well.